We get to the party, it's a proclamation. Be it known that whereas Public Citizens Texas office was established in 1984 to advocate for the consumers of this state. And I'll add parenthetically that when I met Smitty when I was working up at the legislature in the mid-1990s. So we go back personally that far in the work of this organization. And whereas Public Citizen has committed itself to ethics reforms at all levels, including in Austin, to ensure that the best interests of the people are put before corporate interests. Right on. And whereas Public Citizen's efforts have resulted in solutions that improve Texas air quality and thereby the health of the people of Texas and Austin. And whereas Public Citizen's Texas office has been instrumental in advancing the use of clean, renewable energy in Austin, which has resulted in reduced greenhouse gas emissions and local economic development. Now, therefore, I, Steve Adler, Mayor of the City of Austin, Texas, do hereby proclaim December 11th of 2015 as Public Citizen Day.
Yeah!
Appreciate very much your honoring us with your presence, and so many more that have meant so much to us over the decades in terms of our work. And I know you need to leave, and Kathy needs to get her daughter to the Nutcracker, and she's playing a role tonight.
Oh.
So if you have to scoot out in the next few minutes, you're excused and forgiven. So please stay as long as you can.
Thank you.
Hey, pardon?
Thanks.
And thank you so much for being here. And thank you very much for going to Paris. I mean,
Yes.
that really shows a lot about your character and about the nature of the leadership that you're providing, not only here in Texas, but in the world. And
You're here.
I want to point out that there are moments when you say, there's nothing I can do. And this group of people in this room are literally changing the world. They're changing the way we think about our future and the fact that we can take steps to make a significant change in the way climate change is going to affect us. That because of the courage of our council, we have said we're going to do 950 megawatts of solar between now and 2019, all together with what we've had just recently done and what we have done in the past. Woohoo! And I want to thank you very much for that courage, and the recognition that you deserve and worldwide is beginning to shine on Austin. And thank you. I also want to recognize Michael Osborne, who is the chairman of the Electric Utility Commission and sort of the visionary who has made this happen. And we look back recently as I was thinking about the 30 years I've done this job, and when we in the early 1990s put together the Sustainable Energy Development Council and created a vision, a blueprint for making Texas the renewable capital of the nation. And people thought we were absolutely crazy. And now we have more renewables in Texas.
You're still crazy.
And we are still crazy. Than all but 5 nations on the earth.
That's fine.
That's a remarkable number, and largely it has to do with Osborne's vision and those drawings on his whiteboard that we spent endless hours doing.
Right.
So, Michael, thank you very much. And I would also like to recognize my wife, Karen Haddon. Who runs the Sustainable Energy and Economic Development Coalition. And when we were looking the other day, we realized that between us and the work that we have helped participate in, 70% of the solar that's being built in Texas between now and 2020 is being built by Austin, and San Antonio. And that's work that Seed and Public Citizen and our members have instigated and brought to fruition. And just want to once again say to all of you, thank you for your help in that vision and that dream. Because together we're making big things happen that literally change the future of the nation.
Yes.
Yeah, solar seed, yes, no.
Let's do that one more time with feeling.
Solar seed, yes, no.
There we got it.
Yes.
All right, I think the message got heard. So I'm just going to say a few things and recognize a few other people. I want to recognize my staff, most of whom are not in this room. But Carol Geiger, who's probably shorter than most of us, who is around here someplace, who really keeps things going and has been the visionary behind this building and has made it really happen. Carol Birch, you want to raise your hand up? Who is our full-time volunteer on ethics and is now taking on the oil and gas industry. That's what they said about coal plants.
Only
Let's see, who else is Kaiba White's around here someplace.
Yeah.
And she's the person who's done most of the work with Austin Energy and is doing a lot of our renewable energy work around the state. And then in addition, we have a number of folks who are volunteers with us. Many of you saw Lon Burnham, who retired from the legislature and the next day said, I want to work for Public Citizen, and became a full-time volunteer during the legislature. Glenda Pittman, who's back there, if you raise your hand, who has just begun volunteering for us. She's a lawyer who said, as I begin my retirement world, I can't sit by and idly watch what's happening in the climate. I want to become involved. I want to help make stop the climate change that's going on.
Good.
Terry Thorne's back here somewhere. Terry's been a periodic volunteer with us, and he's volunteered to help us do the negotiations on the climate bill in the legislature next session. And he was here when we wrote the Clean Air Act in 1974. He was in D.C. So he knows a little bit about how all this works. So
He's an immigrant from Enron.
And Leslie is one of our current volunteers. You want to raise your hand? And she's also an intern working for us. And Sam Scroven's around here someplace.
Reggie's behind you.
And then Reggie James, who runs Sierra Club back behind you. And she was, and Reggie was with us in running Consumers Union years ago. And then Rita Beving, who runs our Dallas office over there. And Kia Ball, who is around here someplace, who runs our New Orleans operations. And where we're doing a lot of work to clean up the port. So while we're waiting for Elliot to show up and do his little speech, I wanted to make a couple brief remarks. Over the years, we have been involved in literally dozens of different campaigns. Reforming the insurance industry, taking on ethics reform, working on auto projects having to do with the lemon law and the safety of the cars we all drive. We had an intern project one time that stopped a malpractice bill from going through the legislature because he actually looked at the facts about how little people were paying out in terms of malpractice settlements when you were in the middle of, if you're an emergency room doctor, and stopped an entire mist, busted it as a sophomore. We had a freshman who did a study that led to the creation of the State Office of Administrative Hearings. We had a junior who said, I am tired of breathing secondhand smoke. I'm going to ban cigarette smoking at the University of Texas campus, and did so in one semester. We have had study after study come out of this operation, generally done by over 300 interns that have come together, who have learned skills and learned techniques, who have gone on to do various things. Audrey Barnett, who's over there someplace, went off to work at the White House for a while. We've had people who have gone off and are now working in solar and wind companies all over the country. We have Connor Kinney, who's around here someplace, who literally wrote the 2003 ethics bill in our office as a senior intern, and then managed to figure out how to get it passed. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't what we wanted, but when you look at what was in that, it was Connor's bill that passed that session. Connor is also the only intern that I ever walked in on at 7:30 in the morning, and he was asleep at his computer in our office because he stayed up all night doing that sort of stuff. So the work that really gets done here is done by young people. And the thing that's most important to me is that as an organization that has been mentored by Hightower, by Ralph Nader, by Joan Claybrook, and all those who have come before me, we have managed to end up training over 300 interns who now know how to go out and raise hell, who have learned how to become agitators for good, and know how to get the dirt out of our system. And that's our challenge.
Yes.
And together we have a whole lot more to go. And I think as Steve, it's so important that Steve is here tonight to talk about what's happened in Paris. Because we're literally at that point that unless we do everything we can to change the climate, or change the way we approach our climate and the way and what we do to save it, we're going to go off the cliff.
Right on.
And the debate that's going on now is giving me some hope that we may actually be able to come up with a plan that we can all live with and reduce dramatically the emissions by 2050. But the question is, will that be enough? And we are now in a situation where we're now facing a hostile Texas legislature, and our goal is to come up with some plan that we can actually get through the legislature that's going to take advantage of the skills we have in Texas and the opportunities to become a renewable energy provider for much of the rest of the nation. There's an old number that I want to share with you that was one of Osborne's numbers that basically said if we really got smart about it, we could provide 10% of the energy consumed in the United States with our renewable energy alone. We're going to do that.
Yes.
And we're going to set up that marketplace to where we all are providing the clean energy that gets consumed in the rest of the United States.
Yes.
And so,
Do it.
and the kinds of steps we have taken here in Austin have proven that it can be done. It has been now, those kinds of steps have now been duplicated by places like Georgetown, Texas. Who the hell ever thought they'd beat us to 100% renewable? We now have,
Trevor. Because of your intern, Trevor.
because of, yeah, our intern Trevor, thanks very much for reminding us. Our intern Trevor, who gets called out for organizing those students at Georgetown that went and started to get the first renewable set aside for the city of Georgetown. And it worked so well that they've magnified that. We're now involved in a debate in Georgetown. Not Georgetown, in Denton, which is no liberal place. And Denton is now talking about 70% renewables by 2025. And they are talking, one of their conservative city council members saying, why don't we go 100% renewables by 2035? So Steve, your job is clear. Are you gonna let those guys beat us? Yeah, I wish it was a piece of cake. But you know, the good news is what we have done here has paved the way for others to do what they now see as the cheapest path forward.
Yes.
Not the environmental path forward, but because of the investments we have made, because of the risks we have taken to demonstrate that we can reduce pollution by using renewables at low cost, it's paid off. It's worked really well. And we're now in a position where other people are following our lead. And I want to recognize Kathy back there, and her former employer, TXU, is now saying 150 megawatts of solar, and we want to retire a bunch of coal plants so we can get deeper in the renewable business. So the change has come, and it's because of people in this room and the leadership we've had from the Austin City Council and folks like Mayor Adler. Let's give them applause on that. And if anybody sees Elliot, would you get him in here?
He says